Third time's a charm. Cheers, Alex.
Fuck yeah.
So, folks, if you're tuning in right now, today is June 30th. It's a Friday. It's 2023. We've been doing podcasts with employees from Cresco's flagship store, otherwise known as Sunnyside, Wrigleyville. If you're interested in seeing some of the interviews I'm referring to, check out episode number 291, 292, and 293. Those feature three separate employees that all have their own unique story about their working experience at Sunnyside. Today, we're continuing the trend, and I'm joined by Alex. Alex, welcome to the Chillinois podcast. We've been dealing with some technical issues, so we'll just pretend I haven't asked you this question 2 times now. Go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience.
Hi guys, my name is Alex Nocchi. I worked for Sunnyside Wrigleyville for a year.
Awesome.
And yeah.
And you came from the California industry. California, was that
Yeah.
right?
Yes, I came from Humboldt County. So I
Wow.
was making cash in BHO in Humboldt County prior to being 21. So it wasn't like I had my 215 or anything like that. But I'm no stranger to the cannabis industry and all different aspects and forms of it. But I can honestly say that the shit going on within Cresco is absolutely insane. Because I mean, like the company as a whole operates the way the Wrigleyville store does. So it's not like it's just us dealing with this. This is people at every one of these stores.
Yeah. Well, you know my next question, because this is the question I've asked that has broken the streams. I'm afraid to ask it again if it jinxes us. But right off the bat, when you came over from California, what are some of the, and then I want to get into your story and experience, but I love to hear this. What are some of the things you noticed right off the bat, difference wise, between the markets, California and Illinois?
Um, the amount of corporate involvement. That's just like the biggest thing. It's an insane level of corporate involvement. I mean, corporate delusion is really more so what it is, but the level of corporate involvement and the way the employees are treated. We were treated much differently out in Cali. Even though what I was doing was black market and not legal, I was still treated better than how I was treated at Wrigleyville.
Wow. Wow. So you were treated better by your
By plugs, by like,
unlicensed employers than your licensed employers, which is
yep,
crazy.
yep.
I mean, so I just want to give you this space. We've been trying to connect for a while, and
Mm-hmm.
I know that you have a story and an experience you'd like to share.
Yes.
Um, it's your floor, Alex. Go ahead.
Hey, so I want to say when I first started out at that store, it started out well. It did. The bathrooms worked. We had an upstairs. Everybody was cool. Everybody had fun. It was a really good work environment when it all began. And when I started there, it was right after they moved locations. So I only worked at the John Barleycorn old building, not the one where they had the two across the street, which I think is insane that even went on that long. But it was all good when I first started, but things definitely started to take a turn once the bathrooms went down. I recently realized that they must have like given that gym all of our emails because I get emails from this gym like regularly now, and I never signed up with them. I never gave them my email. I never gave anybody permission to give them my email, but now I get like all these emails. And they didn't pay for this like 2-month trial that they put us all on. They probably went through it expecting that more of us would start paying for it. And that was the reasoning of the like thing with the bathrooms and why the gym agreed to it at first. Because I know now that they're not able to do that they don't have that going on. So
They're not able to do that?
I don't think that they have partnered with the gym again.
Okay.
But the way that they were for those 2 months. And I really think it's because that they gave them our information. Because I know multiple other people that still get emails from this gym, never gave them an email, never, you know what I mean? Like I don't understand how they got my email or why I'm getting all these emails.
And
It's kind
sorry,
of weird.
I want to give you the space, but I am just curious on this because I never really thought about it until you described it that way as a partnership. Did you like, how did it work from the employee's perspective? Like, did you just walk over there and say, "Hey, I'm a Sunnyside." Like, did you ever
You
use
were
them or?
given a number. You were giving your, I think my number was like 47 or something like that. And I'd like walk over there and tell them the number, and then they like made a check mark. They had like a clipboard, and it had like all of these numbers on it, and they would make a check mark every single time you came over there. And I was like, that's kind of weird. Like, whatever though.
Did you
I didn't think,
notice it? Did you notice if your process differed from like other actual members coming in?
yeah, because they had like, I'm pretty sure, like, say their names and stuff like that. Like, you know what I mean? They had some other way of going about it, but like for us, like, we just said our numbers. Unless you like were really cool with the people that were working at front desk, then you could just like wave, and they like knew what your number was, and they would just like check you off. um but it was technically like a partnership, so because we didn't have bathrooms, so we shouldn't have been open when the gym wasn't open, but like the gym would close early on Sundays, and we didn't know that. So at 3 o'clock Sunday, if you had to go to the bathroom, SOL, dude. Like, good luck. Figure it out. Find an alley. Somebody actually got locked in the elevator because we didn't know that the gym closed. And they walked across the street, got in the elevator to go up to the gym, didn't realize the gym was closed, and got stuck in the elevator. And
Oh,
they had to call the fire department.
while they had to go to the bathroom too, they're stuck in an
Yeah,
elevator having to go to the bathroom. That's nice.
yeah, right. Um, but to be honest, I didn't really mind that too much going across the street. It got me out of having to be in that building, which in and of itself was disgusting. Um, and I didn't like all of the coworkers, so I had no problem using a separate bathroom. But I think where it really started to get bad was come winter, and there was no heat in the back, and we were doing deliveries with jackets on, and we couldn't have multiple heaters plugged in because it would blow the fuse, and we had to plug them in our kitchen, and then run a wire to the back room, like the garage where we would do the delivery. So if somebody used the microwave or something, you would blow the fuse. So there was no way around this, and the fuse box is upstairs. So after we got the upstairs taken away, you had to get a manager to go upstairs and reset the fuse box, and like there was only one manager who was ever willing to do that.
And
And
the
like,
upstairs is really dangerous, which is probably why the only one manager, right? Am I right?
yeah, but I wish that the upstairs had been around a lot longer, because it was a lot more of an open space, and I feel like tensions didn't rise so much
Mm.
between management and like the rest of us when that upstairs space was available, because there were bathrooms upstairs. There was like a place for us to like sit and chill and not have a bunch of cameras looking at us because we're in a dispensary, and at least upstairs they were just like the two, so everybody could kind of relax, and like, I don't know, they should have just fixed the upstairs. They had 2 years to work on a building that they didn't work on. But I feel like a lot of my old coworkers have touched on that super hard and have done phenomenal jobs talking about it. One thing that I would like to talk about is the constant misgendering of employees that went on by management. I mean, we had fucking pronoun buttons, dude, and they couldn't get it right. Like, you had people who were constantly misgendered. There was somebody's dead name that was used on our break sheet on a regular basis. And I mean, that's horrific. Why would you put somebody through that?
And for folks that don't know, can you explain what dead naming is?
It's a dead name from before they transition. It's not what they go by. It's not their name. Just, that's not their name. So there's no reason for that name to be used. And so for that to come up on break sheets, and I mean, this was happening during Pride Month last year, where it was still coming up on break sheets even prior to Pride Month, and the other months going on in the year. Like, it was absolutely ridiculous, and it was insensitive and cruel and weird and so wrong. But that was the way our management started to kind of operate. There were a few of them that just were very inhumane and like not compassionate or caring, and it's not what the weed industry should represent. And I feel like that's what it's representing now in Illinois, is management staff that is like that. Because I've worked at 2 other dispensaries after leaving Sunnyside, both of which absolutely horrible, not even worth naming. No. Um, but the management staff at one of them was quite the same way. And it seemed to be a running theme in the industry, I guess, that this is how corporate wants their management teams to act and treat people.
I do think it's worth naming those other companies. Do you mind?
Um, I also don't want to give them that publicity though,
But we're not giving them good publicity right now.
I guess.
You're saying that
I
they're just like Cresco, So
almost worse a little bit. Okay Cannabis. I worked at the OK Cannabis in Wheeling. Um, they fired half their staff because they couldn't afford it.
I heard about that shit.
I have the email still saved that somebody else sent me. I was fired because of insubordination, but I was simply questioning a manager's understanding of compliance because it was very different than the compliance that was going on down the street.
Mm.
And like, yes, compliance differs, district to district and so on. And it's like a really not a clear cut thing in this state for some reason. But
it sounds like you were having an honest conversation.
Yeah. And they took it as insubordination and started yelling at me on the floor. When I asked them why they were so hostile and aggressive towards me about it, they immediately took a step back and went, "No, I'm not." And I decided to let HR know. And then they immediately sent me home and then fired me 2 days later over the phone. The same time that they fired everybody who was part-time because they couldn't afford it anymore.
Okay.
That's OK Cannabis.
Gotcha.
Not worth it.
Was there another one? Sorry, I don't mean to keep us on this tangent. We'll get right back to it.
I also worked at Ivy Hall, but they have a really good management team over there that I think are going to make a difference. And the people that are there, a lot of them are really good people. It's somewhere where, like, if I'm going to spend any money in Illinois, I'd probably have somebody go there for me that still works there. Like, they're decent. They're decent folks. They're definitely still trying to get their head around things, but they have better understandings of compliance and knowledge than a lot of the other dispensaries.
Cool. Sorry for the tangent. I just thought it was important.
No, it's okay. Damn, I'm gonna have to roll another blunt.
Hey,
But
it's encouraged.
I'm so down. But when I was working at Sunnyside, I had two very traumatic events play out in my personal life in a 2-week time span of each other. My older brother unfortunately committed suicide last year on June 15th. And 2 weeks later, I was in a horrible domestic violence situation. And Cresco was well aware of both of these events. I had to get an order of protection. When my brother committed suicide, I immediately called out of work, all of that kind of thing. But it was after those things and I kind of saw the real side of management and Cresco as a whole that it really started to get bad for some reason. I couldn't continue to watch his name pop up on tickets. It was like I was supposed to go on bereavement for it was like 24, 25 days. But then after 2 weeks, I was like, I can't keep sitting at home dealing with this. I didn't know what to do. It was a very weird space and grief. And I had reached out to HR and I was like, can I come back a little sooner? And they were like, yeah, absolutely. And so I did. And I should have not, but I did. And it was about a week after I came back and I had asked the manager on staff if I could leave early because I didn't want to be customer facing. And when you work at Sunnyside, you get a ticket from the customer with their name on it. Not just looking at their ID, you're looking at this giant ticket with their name on it. And I couldn't keep looking at tickets that had his name on it. And so I asked to leave early. And this was a turning point for me when I started to really look at all this much differently than I was. He looked me dead in the face and asked if I wanted a half point or a whole point. Not like, are you okay? Like, did you want to leave right this second and get a whole point, or did you want to wait like 20 minutes and get a half point? Like, not, am I okay? Not why, what's going on? And I looked at him and tears just started flooding out of my face. And I had to almost run out of the manager's office because I was like, I'm not going to allow this person to see me cry. Because look at how nil compassion you have towards like another human being that I thought we were more on like a friend term too. Cause like I've smoked with you outside of work, you know what I mean? Like we've also all smoked together outside of work. We all know each other. Like, and for it to be treated as such was disgusting. If it weren't for the AICs that were on staff that day and the awesome, awesome inventory manager that we had at the time, I probably would have either rage quit or fired, but he was able to look at the other two managers and demand that I leave without points, without some kind of disciplinary action, because there was no reason for it. Like they worked off like an 8-point attendance thing, and like managers though can make special excuses for things. You know what I mean? And this was obviously one of those points in time. Like, but that's how management decided to deal with that. Well, two of managers, while my inventory manager had to fight that I leave without disciplinary action. And he was one of the best inventory managers we had. He left, and after he left, it like really went downhill. And the union did nothing. The union did fucking nothing. That union was a waste of money. That union was a waste of time. That union laughed at us. Absolutely, that union should not be representing cannabis workers in any way, shape, or form. They don't know what they're doing at all. They have no experience in it. I worked for Jewel Osco, and they weren't that great at Jewel Osco. So,
And
like,
we're talking about UFCW, right?
yes,
Yeah.
881, I believe. They were the union at Jewel. They weren't that great there. They were horrible with Cresco. We literally had like a 2-hour video chat between a whole bunch of employees and our like head people over at the union. And I remember they thought we had all signed off, and there were a couple of us still on, and they laughed at us. They fucking laughed at us. And they like were saying like, oh yeah, like we'll do this every 2 weeks and try to like keep up and like helping you guys and like blah blah blah. And like nothing. Like a lot of us still have recordings of it, like literal footage of all of this, because this was like, we thought it was insane the way we were all being treated, ignored. Like we were begging for help from anybody. We were asking like lawyers that were coming in that were medical patients if they could help us in some way, shape, or form. Like we had no bathrooms, we had no heat, we had management staff that didn't give a fuck about us in any way. Not all of management, but a good majority. Like there were maybe 2 managers that cared about all of us. And once that inventory manager left, there was only 1 manager that cared about all of us, and she couldn't do it all by herself. And I'm sure that ran her rampant. But they treated all of us horribly. Like the level of sexual harassment that went on from customers to all of us. Like I think Allison touched on it a lot. Like we were like harassed by customers that would come from Wrigleyville on a regular basis. There was this one man that would come in that 7 of us at least would walk off the floor because we would not take him. We would not deal with him. Like he mocked me once to my face for no reason. They had to get an AIC out on the floor. And even then, management still wanted the AIC to go through with the sale. That's what they cared about. They cared about that shitty little pack of joints. Then they cared about their employee who goes through 170 people for them and pushes $20,000 to a register, but they cared more about that $30. That's what kind of corporation Cresco is. And that person still isn't banned, I'm pretty sure, because what you have to do to actually be banned is like, you have to like physically like get in our faces and like scream at us. And then like, we can't even call that ban. They have to email corporate. And then corporate has to watch our footage and decide if it's even, worth banning. So people that aren't there, that have nothing to do with us, are deciding who's being banned and who's safe to bring into this building and who isn't. I know recently a security guard who had been with the company since before it was at the John Barleycorn building got fired for removing somebody from the store who was saying that they were going to bring back guns and shoot up the store. And this security guard physically removed this man from the building because the manager on duty gave them the okay to, and then they still turned around and fired him. He's in our armed forces now. Like he's it's insane. So they don't care about any of us because they know that there's a line of people waiting to take all of our jobs. So we're disposable to them. And that's like the biggest issue is they don't see any importance, care, or acknowledgement of the time and energy and knowledge that all of us put into that place on a regular basis.
Right.
Sorry, that was a super long rant.
No, dude, this is what this is for. We're allowed to do this. It's not like we have any time slots or ads we got to play, you know. This is what this is for, giving you the full floor to talk about these things. And you know, one of the tough questions I've had to ask all of your I don't want to call them your friends if they're not all your friends, but your coworkers. Like it's not an easy question to ask, but like frankly, what you're describing sounds like Walmart, which is I think what they want this to be. Like they call this a CPG industry, a consumer packaged good industry. And think about any other consumer packaged good. Like when you go to Walmart, they don't treat the employees well. They have to work shit hours. They don't have any rights. I'm sure that getting hit on is a normal thing at Walmart. And I'm not saying this is okay. I'm not saying this is okay. I'm just saying that
like men like demand my phone numbers and we're still not banned. Like literally, like I walked off the floor, it was so fucking creepy, and had whole AICs telling them like you can't speak to people like this, and we're like it's a free country. That was their response, and then was like threw a fit, and then security had to come and like remove them. Like it's so fucking strange because like that's what I mean. Out in California, there's like a level of respect for people that are in this industry, like especially from the customers. Like where you're like, would you talk to your drug dealer like that? You know what I mean? Like before we legal, have you ever bought drugs in your life? No. And it shows. It fucking shows because you think you can come in here and speak to these people this way. Like
right. Again, and I feel like just uncomfortable asking this question, but like again, do you think that like Walmart has banned, like if I went and hit on somebody at Walmart, like maybe, but I just feel like it would be so hard for Walmart to enforce the ban. And I'm not saying we shouldn't do this. This sounds weird for me to even like say this, but it's like when you put that in your mind and you realize that that's who these companies want to be, like they want to be the Walmart of weed.
Yep.
So like the things you're talking about, like while I agree with you and while I hope most of my listeners are agreeing with you, this is disgusting. It's like, I feel like this stuff happens at Walmart and Home Depot and all these things every single day to women and men. And I'm not saying it's okay. I'm just saying that this is who these companies are. Like they want to be the Walmart of weed or whatever, you know.
I just thought it was insane when this would happen, and they would tell me that there was one guy who's just said something super creepy in our fishbowl once, and like I said, we have printed tickets with people's fucking names on them.
Is the fishbowl the room in the front where you check in?
Room in the front where you like scan the IDs and everybody just kind of is like, oh yay, woo. Like yeah. Us. And but this guy, like I printed him a ticket and I handed it to him, and he said something really just derogatory, just flat out disgusting. I'd only been back from bereavement for like a day and a half at this point in time, and I had asked not to be customer facing, and it was ignored, and I was put in fishbowl, and I was in fishbowl without a security guard, without somebody else with me. I was completely by myself, and there's like a line out the door, which is fine, but this dude just says something absolutely fucking disgusting, and then tried to walk into the fucking dispensary. So I jumped up and like ripped him backwards and was like, hell no, like you're not about to say that to me and then try to walk in here. Like, who the fuck are you, dude?
Yeah.
And like then security got involved, and the manager's like, oh my god, what's happening? And I like handed them this ticket and was like, this is his name, you know what I mean? Ben, like what the fuck, like this needs to be like, that's predatory behavior, like that's weird. And they told me that they couldn't ban him because he's never made an account before. And so their whole banning process doesn't even make sense because they can't even, if you don't have an account, they can't fucking ban you. So if you go in and you do an OBO every single time,
right,
they'll be able to actually ban you because you don't have an account. So we'll never pop your name is scanned that you're banned. And I was like, that's fucking insane.
And
That
actually,
is
that's kind of what I was working up to is like adult use patients. There's actually a part of Illinois law that says dispensaries cannot store your information. So, like, it's like you
we
could almost take a picture of that person, but it's like even that, I would consider that my information. You know what I mean? So, like,
yeah,
it would probably be hard to enforce a ban as a dispensary when that law exists, like you just said, because they're not. That's crazy. So, anyways, again, I want to reiterate that I am like, it feels weird to like point these things out because it's like, it seems like I'm like arguing for the devil, but I'm not,
no,
you
it's
know.
okay.
So, hey, I wanted to, well, I'll save this for later. You brought up security. I actually got a message from one of your security guards that's just insane.
Which
I'll
one?
bring it up later. I don't know. They preferred to remain anonymous, but I'm sure you can confirm what they shared, which would probably
Yeah.
go towards you feeling unsafe at work. But I didn't want to get in the way of what you were talking about. So
Mm,
we were talking about working conditions and the fact that bans are very
it's
rarely issued and not enforced, you know.
like impossible to ban people. I mean, not even just, I mean, and the sexual harassment that goes on within the workplace as well is fucking gross. At least
Like between
Ethan a
coworkers.
little bit in his episode, he talked about a situation, but he wasn't ever sure if it got resolved or not. And that situation was between me and AIC and two other wellness advisors, and it was never resolved. So that's all. It answers all of Ethan's thoughts that he originally had on it. But I had an AIC who was standing behind me purposely during 420 checks. Who was saying derogatory stuff to other coworkers and was speaking this way about my body, another girl's body. She was asking somebody else how they would feel since they've decided to stick with men, and they are like, it was weird. Like, this girl has serious issues and was an AIC and would speak about other people, their bodies, all sorts of shit. And when we brought it up to management, we were told by HR at Cresco that it was our perception.
What are some of the things they'd say if you don't mind?
She would stand behind me during 420 checks, and because she wanted to see all that cake back there, she would comment about another girl's chest on a regular basis. One of our friends married a man, but was bisexual. So she was asking how she would feel never having pussy again in her life in the vault, openly, around a whole bunch of other people. Like, was speaking to us like that, an AIC, and then was like going out of her way to like follow us around the store and like antagonize the situation. And this went on for months, to
And
the point that when she started acting like that, I would just immediately write an email to HR and our district manager as it was happening, describing exactly what was happening, so they could sit there and compare it on their cameras to the timestamp on my email. You know what I mean? I was giving them all the evidence that they needed to be like, this is fucking weird. Do something about this. And instead, we were told it was our perception. Why? I have no idea. No idea. I mean, this girl was very close with the GM at our store, and I think that that had a lot to do with it. But even so, they ended up transferring her because she sucked as a GM and let a bunch of horrible shit go on
yeah.
a regular basis.
So really quick for folks that are listening, a GM's an easy one, general manager, but you also threw out the acronym AIC. That's agent in charge, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
I just try to
And
make sure that people know what we're talking about.
I was an AIC at Ivy Hall. Like, I would never ever speak to any bud tender or address them the way that this girl spoke to us, addressed us, and treated us on a regular basis. And I mean, she would treat the other AICs like this as well. She got into a screaming match once in the garage during a 30-day inventory count with another AIC. And nothing was ever done about this girl's behavior. It was just like constantly like brushed off or like allowed. And
Yeah.
it was all one of the reasons that I left, and I made sure to let them know that that was a reason why I was leaving, was because the way you handled the situation was incredibly poorly. Like, you don't treat people like this. Like, you guys are dropping the ball on shit that really fucking matters. Like, and it was just, it's shitty because Cresco, if they hide, like, if there were good people, shit could actually change. And I mean, like, good people, figureheads lobbying to push these laws to make them more suitable to what's actually needed from the public and from the people that work in the industry. But instead, people are chosen for leadership roles that only have corporate interest in mind. And it's destroying cannabis in Illinois.
Yeah, but see, that's just it. You just brought up lobbying and stuff. Like they're not even like when they lobby, they're not pushing for things that actually like it's not substantive reform that they're pushing for. They push for just enough to create an industry for themselves, and to keep those that would purchase from them in that industry just legal enough to remain in that industry. In other words, anything that happens outside of that industry, they fully believe should be enforced by the color of the law, by law enforcement. Law enforcement are their armed cronies. Like
Yeah.
when I've asked prospective operators or existing operators why they don't want like the full decriminalization of cannabis or things like home grow to be legal, they ask, their like immediate response to me is like, how would that affect the market? And my thing is, this has never been about the market. Like the market is something that comes with it actually having been decriminalized. A legal market would arise because it's no longer criminal. But like first and foremost, people should no longer be able to serve prison sentences for just cannabis, right?
Oh, correct. While I was working at Cresco, there was a protest in front of our store last summer. Speaking about that, I don't remember who the people were, but I distinctly remember this protest because I want everybody to know that was worked with Cresco to like do that protest. Like our manager told us in the pre-roll meeting, like, hey, so there's going to be people outside. It's going to be kind of loud, but like we're working with them. Like they're actually on our side, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, that's super weird because they're protesting that. Like, how are we selling weed when there's still people sitting in Cook County for selling weed, And that was, it got like way wilder than we all expected, but that was all worked on like with Cresco, supposedly. That was like this, they had like followers, they were like live streaming it. And like, I don't remember exactly who it was because it was just in my way in that moment, trying to get like to and from the door. And
Do you
people
remember the time approximately, like the date?
it was sometime because there was a Cubs game going on too.
Okay.
It was like the only time there was a protest there last summer in front of Cresco, in front of Sunnyside. So I probably should have done my own research before saying that exactly who it was, but yeah, that was the only went on last summer there.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say to your point, it's like to expect them to push for like an equitable and fair and like honest and safe workplace it would seem so weird considering everything else they push for. Like they literally yeah, I get really frustrated. I beat this drum all the time, and I feel like I've been just screaming into the void forever. So my most effective, I think, thing that I've done recently is I sat down with the mother of a child who's currently serving, he's 7 years into his 23-year prison sentence for a cannabis charge. 23 years in prison for cannabis.
It's fucking ridiculous.
And he's not alone. This happens we read about this all the time. And so yeah, to hear it from her perspective made me feel less crazy. So for folks that want to check that out, that is episode number 298 with Tina Reichert. But anyways, I'll close the point by saying that I'm glad you brought up lobbying, because that's kind of the best way to show who these companies really are, because of what they don't push for. You know what I mean? And what they fight against. Like I said, they do have a history of lobbying against home grow, which means like that's a weird way of saying that they're lobbying for the criminalization of cannabis, if you think about that, right?
Yep. Yeah, no, that's essentially what it is. They only want you to be able to get your weed from them.
Correct. Yeah. And they lobbied alongside police. So it's like wait a minute. I thought that this was about getting the police out of the equation. Why are you working alongside the police? So thank you for bringing that up. It Thank you for also covering things that we haven't gotten too far into. You alluded to your case that wasn't necessarily solved. Thank you for providing clarity on that. You said Ethan mentioned it. Is there anything else with regard to that? I'm not trying to talk about the sensitive details of it, but I am trying to give you the space to talk about some of these things you've gone through. So is there anything else that you wanted to mention with regard to that or
Um,
other um things?
I personally think a lot of the behavior that just went on, like my brother committed suicide. I'd been with the company like 7 or 8 months at that point, and like I was that person that went through when Ethan said that there was somebody who was like congratulated for going through 170 people. That was me. Like one of our weird managers said it in a pre-roll, and I remember it just felt weird. There was no reason, like there's just that was all just so weird that was like glorified to them. Like, so for somebody that you guys were like able to say like, oh, what a great job, you did all this, and like you made this much money and you have this much in your register and this and that, but then like my brother commits suicide and you guys couldn't even like send flowers. You know what I mean? Like you're a whole giant company, like a man and a management team that could have been like, hey, you know what I mean? Like, because in old school business, that's how things would be done. When things like that happen to your employees, you care about it because they work for you. They're the backbone of your company. So when like extreme life advances like that happen, you should show your support and care and concern by making gestures and moves like that. My father's a small business owner. He treats his employees great. His guys love him. And he makes moves like that because he wants them to know that they are appreciated and cared about within that company. And Cresco, once again, just continuously dropped this ball of giving a fuck about the people that make them their money. I mean, towards the end of it, they in pre-roll, they'd be telling us they want us to make $110,000 today and blah blah blah. We would all just get up and walk out because what was the point of hearing that? Like, I'm not going to try hard on a register now. Like, I'm going to move 4 times slower. Like, we also at one point there was we had a no strikeout clause in our CBA agreement with the union, but we also had there was something about a slowdown strike. So if they saw us obviously working slower, that was grounds for termination. If they thought we were getting other employees to work slower, grounds for termination. Like, that's where that union, I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but there's definitely something else going on there. Because when you do the math of the amount of employees that work there, the amount of money that's taken out of their checks yearly going towards this union, it adds up to a pretty nice little sum of change.
Okay.
And so, and then they don't answer, they don't care. They laughed at all of us. I mean, we had no heat, we had no bathrooms. The union never once did anything. Like, and we were being obviously treated differently than the other Sunnyside stores. I had friends that worked in Schaumburg. I had friends that worked at River North. I mean, River North had their parking discounted down $8 a day. At Wrigleyville, good luck finding a fucking parking pass. I think I paid off like $600-700 in parking tickets during Cubs games last summer.
Damn.
Yeah. And they did not give a fuck. They did nothing to get us parking passes. They did nothing to try to work with like a parking garage near us to get us discounted parking like they did for River North. They also decided to raise River North's minimum wage than what we were making, and it was higher than what was in our CBA after the Wrigleyville store unionized.
Yeah. But that's kind of it sounds like they kind of do that though, especially even to their locations that haven't unionized or whatever. But
we brought it all up to our union and was like, here's all these distinct differences of how we're being treated differently. Here's receipts of all of it, because it was really easy to email somebody else in like a different corporate office and be like, hey, can you tell me, like, I want to transfer stores. Can you tell me what the difference would be in sick time or PTO and blah, blah. And they would tell me all of that, you know what I mean? And we'd be able to screenshot it, bring it to our union and be like, hey, why are we being treated like this, but these other stores are being treated better and we're paying you?
Right.
It could never do anything about it somehow. Like in the entire year I was there, the amount of like evidence and receipts that we brought to these people that they didn't do anything with, and there was no change ever, just blew my mind. So I was like, you guys have more than enough to be
Yeah.
able to do something, you know?
Yeah,
Um,
the misconduct is the one that really stands out to me. All the different forms of misconduct you've described, because really quickly the difference in benefits, like I get what you're saying, but honestly, whatever they agreed to on the collective bargaining agreement, the CBA that you're describing, like that's what they agreed to. So yeah, just because some stores doing it better, the union and Cresco agreed to those terms. And so it's not like they're going to give you any more, and they're definitely not going to give you any less because they can't by
yeah,
contract. But
yeah.
you know what I mean? So, but I'm not trying to downplay what you're saying. That sucks. But I think that the one that stands out to me, and the one I've heard through all the conversations, is that the union does sound useless when it
Oh,
regards to like the very valid complaints that you have. And again, I'm not saying the thing you just brought up with differences and benefits isn't valid. It's just that whatever is in your CBA, that's what's in your CBA. So just because something's better doesn't mean you can just add it, to your contract.
but there was ways and wording in there where they could have, like, our managers could have done more. Like if our
Fair.
man cared
Yeah.
enough, they could have brought it to corporate and helped make significant change for us, but
Yes.
instead didn't.
Right.
And that's the part for me where it started to break down. Because if you guys want to like act like you're on our side and like you care about us, but then all of these things you're not doing. I mean, the whole bathroom thing, we were sent an email by, he was a district manager, blaming all of the women in the building with their period products. I screenshot the email. I still have it. Like a couple weeks later, he was asked to step down after sending this email to all of us because it was incredibly discriminatory and so wrong and so weird. And even the wording that was used, we were a beautifully diverse store. And he used the word all the women in the building, but it was people with periods because of the diversity within our store. That's how it should have been worded and how it should be worded, because there's so many different people that worked at Wrigleyville. And this person decided to say it differently, was asked to step down. And then a couple weeks, or to say a couple days, I believe, after that, management had started asking some of us to just go around, get a pen and paper, and write down the products that everybody used so they could get them for the store. That was their basis. So they wanted to get these products for the store for us to use, that they wanted to pay for them and blah blah blah, but they wanted us to write down somebody's name, what kind of tampon they used, and then give it to them. And I was like, that's so weird and creepy and cringy, and I'm not going to be a part of that. So I let HR know, and I was like, hey, I just want it to be known, here's this physical receipt for me to have that I said to you that, hey, this is really weird that your manager is asking this of people and asked this of me, and I'm politely declining. But personally, what I'm saying is, if you buy generic pads and tampons, I don't think anybody will be upset. Nobody ever bought us pads and tampons. That never happened. The whole 6 months went by and nobody bought anything for us. So it was like, why did you really want this weird list of, so you could figure out who was flushing shit? Like, after you guys had a cameraman or a plumber with a camera tell you it was dirt and gravel, and then you guys accused us of carrying like dirt and gravel around or some shit. Like, it was super weird. They like just continuously wanted to blame us for the bathrooms. And I just didn't understand that part of it. I was like, yeah, it's an old building. Like, come on. Like, you really can't. Again, you fumbled the fucking ball, Cresco. Like, you had 2 years to fix a building. You fucking chose not to. And now you're trying to blame it on the people that work here.
So what did the union have to say about it, like whenever you would report any sort of misconduct or about these working conditions? Like have you ever heard? Sorry, go ahead.
They asked if I wanted to file a grievance.
Oh,
That was it. They would ask if we wanted to file a grievance against that management, against that employee, blah, blah, blah. But like, filing grievances couldn't always work out in your favor. So a lot of the time that wasn't the move that you wanted, because then you're walking around with a giant target on your back. Management's definitely going to treat you differently. You're definitely going to end up spending your whole day on register, or your whole day split between OBO and register. You're not going to like, it's, they're going to retaliate against you, basically. If you try to file a grievance with the union, management will retaliate against you. And I personally felt it and saw it. I tried to move forward with that AIC, file a grievance against the GM because she was allowing this to go on, even with viable proof. Because there was another manager in the vault and overheard some of the weird and creepy things that she said. And, you know, acclimated to it, was like, yeah, that happened. And still there was nothing ever done about it. So filing a grievance just meant that I was then put on register and OBO every single fucking day, even when I asked not to be customer facing, even when I like openly said I was still like grieving, like I'm still grieving over my brother. That's going to be a loss that I'm going to feel for a long time. And some days are like better and some days aren't, but it was like an open thing that they knew I was dealing with. And I would ask not to be customer facing. They'd still put me customer facing. Towards the end of my time there, I wouldn't even go into a meeting with her because I didn't feel like being gaslit and lied to. So she like came out of the office and like pulled me aside on the registers in front of customers, people, coworkers, and was like, you think I'm like retaliating against you and blah, blah, blah. And like tried to be like, show me on, I have the break sheets from the last couple of weeks. Like, here are the 2 days that I wasn't customer facing. And I was like, pull up every other day in between. And she did. And she proved me right there in front of a bunch of people. And I was like, why did you do this? Like, I didn't want to come in your office. I didn't want to, just the grievances were pointless is what I'm getting at. Sorry. Absolutely pointless. They didn't lead anywhere good for anybody almost ever. You were just retaliating. And then the union did nothing about being retaliated against. So the union did nothing for us. Personally, that union did jack shit. It was a waste of money. It was a waste of $12 from my paycheck every day for a year. Like, pointless.
Damn. You didn't like, I'm just curious, like did any of the benefits that you got out of the union come in handy, or were you able to utilize them rather when, like, for example, the loss of your brother, like were you able to utilize bereavement leave? And
my bereavement leave, according to HR, was never like actual bereavement, because I've tried to point that out, because I received attendance points when I was on bereavement, which shouldn't have been attested to my attendance. But because it wasn't like actual bereavement, like it wasn't covered under FMLA, then I was still able to receive like disciplinary action. It was some like weird email like that. And I was like, what the fuck are you trying to say here? Like, this is a whole bunch of like really just jumbled up words that you're trying to tell me that this isn't covered and that you don't care. And here's your attendance point. Yeah. And like the union, because it wasn't covered under FMLA, which blows my mind, because I don't understand how that's not covered under FMLA.
Yeah, I have a friend that lost his sister, you know, to suicide, and he was able to take FMLA. So I don't know, but I don't know. I am privileged in that I've never had to take FMLA. You know, or fortunate, whatever word is right. But yeah, I'm sorry for your loss, by the way.
Thank you.
So I can't even imagine, and to have to deal with everything else that you've described, and with seemingly no support. I've been wanting to ask, and I haven't thought until talking to you to ask, like, has anybody ever contacted the state of Illinois? And I'm not even talking like the employment hotline. I'm talking like different, I don't know what you would get out of a cannabis department, like IDFPR or whatever, but like, has that happened at all? Do you know?
I think I looked into once how to like resubmit the sexual harassment from the AIC, but like the amount of work that like goes into that, and I just didn't have the effort or energy to be able to at the time, just made it not suitable. But I don't believe so. As far as OSHA, I don't think anybody's contacted anybody else. And even then, like contacting OSHA, I'm not sure if that was ever even helpful to us, because as far as I know, there's still no heat in their delivery room, and there's still no upstairs, and they only have like one working bathroom sometimes. So like contacting OSHA hasn't done much either. And those were like 4 or 5 different people that contacted OSHA. So they had a fatty list of complaints from our store alone, and nothing.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. I was going to ask about OSHA too. I don't know, who could help, but I just figure, casting a wide net, and it sounds like you've done that. You and your coworkers
Yeah,
have done that.
yep. We
It sounds like you're not getting any help.
No, I don't think anybody really cares about the cannabis industry here. I don't think that people care about how those people are being treated. I like I think back, like, I don't have very many friends that still work there anymore, just because most of those people have left. So now it's just a whole new group of people trying to do the same things we were probably trying to do and getting still nowhere with it. And they're just being degraded and treated even worse, because I've made enough friends in this industry to find out that one of their new district heads that they brought in was brought into Verilife to clean house. So I'm sure that's why she's at Cresco too.
Yeah, that's insane. Well, anything else like with regard? I've still got this security message that we can read up, but I still want to give you the space and the floor to talk about the things that you wanted to talk about.
um, I just think that none of it's going to change until the laws change, and stop buying stop buying Illinois weed. Honestly, I feel like if the people cared enough and stopped spending their money at dispensaries and instead go other routes. I mean, Michigan isn't that far. Missouri isn't that far. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure you got friends that got weed. Like there's other ways to go about it if they want to see like serious change. Because at this rate, like, this is disgusting. Like, you can't trust the unions. You can't trust the people in charge of these companies. You don't really know what you're fucking smoking. I mean, I heard through the grapevine that somebody got a very bad respiratory infection from spraying terpenes onto the candy rain down at like a grow. So like, you got to be careful with what you smoke is from these places, because really it's not. I don't know if it's really weed.
Yeah. Yeah, no, dude. That shit's crazy. We saw that on a pre-roll joint one time. We posted it
Really.
on our Instagram where it said that they added some sort of flavoring to it. And yeah, it was like a sprayable terpene. And you can do that, I guess, in Illinois. So, but it was on the label, folks. So, like, check your labels, I guess, is what I'm saying. I agree
Yeah.
with you, though. I want to say I agree with you. Do not buy weed in Illinois, because what you're doing when you do that, most of the operators in Illinois support this limited license market, which means, again, to go back to what I was saying, anybody who doesn't have a license, the enforcement mechanism is the police. It's not like this, like, hey, you should really have a license if you want to do this. It's get in fucking jail.
Yeah.
You're an animal, just like before. Like, they throw all the same rules at all of the rules that existed before 2020 are still in effect if you try to do any of the things that these licensed operators are doing.
But if you have the right amount of money and you know the right people and you're the right kind of person for them, then you're all good. That's all you need in Illinois.
That's right. That's right. So when you're spending money at Illinois dispensaries, what you're doing is you're financing the continued war on drugs in a sense. And I'm not gonna sit here and say I'm holier than thou. I've had to go to Illinois dispensaries in a pinch before. Like, if I need a cartridge, like, I don't always know somebody who has a cartridge, so I'll pay what I call the convenience fee to just buy a fucking cartridge that day if I really need one, right? It's not something I feel good about doing. In fact, I go home feeling bad about doing it. And that's okay, folks. Like, I'm not saying you can't, if it's your only option in doing it, or it's your only option in acquiring cannabis, go ahead and do it. But just know what you're doing. And I'm not trying to like shame people. It definitely sounds like I am. I'm saying I carry that shame too. when I go to an Illinois dispensary, because I realize that I am financing the continued war on drugs, because these companies don't want you to home grow. They don't want these criminal penalties to go away. And when you spend money with them, you're ensuring basically that those values continue.
And tip your bud tenders. Tip your bud tenders, because the ones in the suburbs don't make shit compared to the ones in the city. So especially tip in the suburbs, but tip everywhere you go.
Yeah.
Like a $4 difference in what you make in a Sunnyside in the city compared to what you make like out in Schaumburg.
And the tips are the only way. Am I right in saying the
Yeah.
tips are the only way you could actually pay somebody that might care about cannabis? Because that's typically who the bud tenders are. Like the bud
Yep.
tenders are actually in it to win it.
Yep.
You know,
We're the ones with all the knowledge. I mean, I
in it
had
for the
better
people.
some of my managers, so we understand the compliance and the knowledge behind the products, what it is you're looking for, what you're trying to feel. I mean, I've worked with bud tenders who are some of the smartest fucking people, you know, like who can nerd out over weed all day and it's great. And like those are the people that matter and that's what should be supported. And maybe one day there'll be an employee ran dispensary, but I don't know. It's
Yeah.
just I think Illinois has to change.
So I'm going to do something interesting. I'm going to try to play this clip, and I'm hoping that that you're not able to tell what I'm playing because it sounds so similar to the cannabis industry. It's not the cannabis industry. I'm going to play the audio from the clip because if I showed it, it would give it away. So here we go. Let's see if this works the way I want it to.
Politicians, right? And it's that context is important because it sets the stage for the way that these laws favored not workers, right? Not patrons, not even the communities that they operated in, but specifically brothel owners. Right?
Okay. So I just gave it away. Brothel owners. So, but you heard about this. So I've been interviewing people from the legal sex industry in Nevada. And what I've
Mhm.
found is a similarity between, and I know that sounds crazy, that there's a similarity between the sex industry and the cannabis industry, but the only similarity and the horrible similarity is that everybody in the business of legal sex in Nevada, just like in everybody in the business of in legal cannabis in Illinois, they like demonize the gray market or the unlicensed market. They ensure that the criminalization continues so that they are the only ones that they hold the monopoly, right?
Yeah.
So it's a very interesting, like I say, it's obviously the line of work is very different, but at when you look at it from a regulatory standpoint, they've captured an industry, and anybody that tries to practice that industry without a license, all of the same rules apply.
Yep.
You get thrown in a cage.
That's interesting. That's seriously interesting. Huh.
It doesn't it say something about the Illinois cannabis industry that I can make
Yeah.
an analogy to the sex industry? And I'm totally supportive of the sex industry, but like most people probably, well, I already know that people do not like when I make that comparison, and maybe some people are listening right now. But when you look at it from that standpoint and you don't think about what the actual work involves,
Yeah.
there are striking similarities. The laws only protect the people that own the business. The employees are not protected. The patrons are not protected, and the communities that they set up in really don't benefit in a way that would come with the true decriminalization of either drugs or sex work, which is the
Yeah.
comparison we're making here.
That's a
Yeah.
really interesting comparison. I've never heard somebody make that comparison. That's definitely something to chew on. Okay.
Yeah. If just a shameless plug, if people want to hear more, right now we've got the series streaming at chillinois.net/sex. And there's a new episode coming out soon, and we'll be finalizing it soon and releasing it for public watching. So it's only available on our Patreon right now, chillinois.net/sex. But yeah, check that out if what I just talked about interests you. Anyways, though, didn't mean to get into that. I just, what you described, where it's like, doesn't seem like this is to protect us or to help the people that come in, it seems like it's only meant to make people thousands of dollars. I'm like, yeah, that's absolutely right. Well, before I read the security message, any other thoughts I still wanted to just give you the floor, give you the space.
No, I think I've covered a lot.
Cool. Thank you again for chilling with me this afternoon.
Yeah, of course.
And for making sure that we got together. I know it's been a pain to schedule with me. So this message I got, this was actually a comment left on our podcast with Allison, your coworker. This person said, I work security there. We were armed. They made us unarmed and lowered our pay, which made me care less for the job. There was a customer that was aggressive and had to be dragged out. It was security that was disciplined. Oh, hey, is that what you just described? And the same customer comes in and threatens a guard by beckoning him outside, and even came in one day with a pocket knife visibly sticking out of his pocket. A guard was fired for the incident, but the customer is allowed in still and even got an apology from the same former manager. We were told to step back always until a manager tells us to step in or a customer gets physically aggressive. If we don't follow that procedure, we could lose our job. They want us to monitor deliveries still, despite being unarmed. And the deliveries take place in an alley. So if anyone decides to do anything with a weapon, we're merely witnesses and likely the first target because we're security. We're contracted, so I don't know the ins and outs. I just know that we're unarmed, told explicitly not to enforce any rules, and seems as just a body they're required to have there. I don't know what he was trying to say with that last one, but they gave us a heads up that hours were reduced, guns were removed, and pay was lowered a week in advance. I barely made the seniority list, but a lot of my coworkers either scrambled to find a new job or were pressured by the short heads up to go from 40-hour work weeks to however many hours they could find. We used to have 3 to 4 armed guards per shift. Now we have a single unarmed guard. I asked them, would you be interested in coming onto the podcast? They said, unfortunately, no. I can answer any questions you have, but we're contracted. So while they can't outright fire me, Sunnyside could simply request I don't work at their locations anymore. It's also sometimes unclear what decisions are Sunnyside's and what decisions are Pal Americans, the security company we work for. I'm in the process of seeking employment elsewhere. I just wanted to add in a little bit of extra info from the security point of view, but I'm not sure I'm not sure I'd have much to add outside of what Allison, Ethan, and DJ have said. So that was the security guard.
So I can say that that's going on at every fucking dispensary for some reason. When I worked at Ivy Hall, it was the same way. We had one fucking security guard who was unarmed. Made no sense to me. That's incredibly dangerous. That's absolutely insane. The security guard that they fired is in our armed forces and was told to do that by management. I'm sorry, that just made me so angry because it's once again a bunch of people being treated horribly. Like, all for a corporate benefit. I think I know a security guard that probably is and which one that sounds like, but that's neither here nor there. But that's why they don't want people to carry guns, because they got to pay them more. They don't want to have to pay them more because Cresco is personally realizing that I guess that it's more money to wholesale their product than it is to have dispensaries. And that's where I think they're kind of starting to go. And Wrigley, being the Flagstaff store, will be the last one to go, but I've heard rumors that they were going to close the Buffalo Grove store because it wasn't generating enough income for them. They were working more on selling out of other states, and I go to Michigan quite a bit, and I can tell you they sell their ounces for $99 in Michigan, and then you're here in Illinois, and that's like way too much fucking money.
Right, and their cartridges, which cost like $120 in here in Illinois, they cost $30 in Michigan.
Yep.
And that's their liquid live resin cartridges. They're like top tier one, but then their budget brand, the high supply, which I believe goes for like 90 a gram here in Illinois, goes for $15 a gram in Michigan.
Yep. It's insane.
This edible that I got from Michigan, I don't know who this company is, so I hate it if this is like a not good value company, but it's just a good point. Like this is a 200 milligram gummy,
Yeah,
four different gummies, so 50 milligram, 50 milligram gummies, right?
yeah.
And this package costs $6.
I get the hype gummies a lot, where it's only $5 for 100 milligrams, and
Wow.
it's 5 gummies that are 20 milligrams. Like, and they smack every time. And unlike Illinois companies, they're not losing money, so they're still able to pay for things like dye and food color, shit like that. Whereas I'm pretty sure the Good News gummies are about to have no color to them because they're not willing to pay for the dye or something anymore. Like, I was cutting like all these crazy corners, I've heard from a lot of different people, but I can just honestly say I'm happy I'm not working in it. My mental health has been a lot better. My state of mind, my for everything. That place literally just like eats your soul. The way it seems like a lot of my coworkers who have also left got on their feet and things have turned around a lot better. I don't know. It's something about Sunnyside. It's something about Cresco. I don't know. It's horrible, and I'm worried about everybody in that store now, because that whole security guard thing is fucking terrifying, and I'm super happy I'm not there anymore.
Well, yeah, I feel weird giving it airtime, but like seriously, people like Cresco, and I saw Charlie Cresco at the safe banking thing, and they all go to the safe banking stuff, I'm sure, and try to make sure that it gets through. But I specifically saw him at testimony because they want safe banking. And what I hear from a lot of the companies is that it would make the cannabis businesses less dangerous because then they wouldn't have to deal in all cash. And it's like, it's interesting to hear them say that and complain about robberies across many different states and how dangerous it all is, but then not staff their flagship stores or frankly their stores in one of their most profitable markets with any form of security,
Yeah.
real security.
Um, the security team that was at that Sunnyside were absolutely amazing. All of the people that were inside our building, all of the guards that were outside our building last summer, those people were great. They were great people. They made all of us feel so comfortable, so safe. Like, I mean, you got bar crawls with people going all the way the fuck down Clark Street, and you got to get around that to get in and out just for a break to go get something to fucking eat, dude. And like, security was the only one there to be able to get you into the building. I mean, I don't even understand how they're going to operate the rest of this summer with that being what it is, with like games being what they are, with Wrigleyville being what it is. I mean, for God's sakes, dude, people were like trying to fuck in our bathrooms and like hit vape pens, and like they couldn't contain that with guards. And now they think they're going to be able to handle any of this without us, like properly staffed security guard team. Like, that's insane. And that's wrong on so many fucking levels.
Yeah, well, I didn't even realize that part of what this person was saying would like add to your or kind of back up your story. That's kind
Yeah.
of funny. I started reading. I was like, this sounds familiar.
I was sent the video of this security guard dragging that person out. Like, I I got a whole wealth of lovely footage if a nice little lawyer ever wants to come this way and talk to any of us. I'm sure a bunch of us have shit stored away for this, but
Yeah, sounds like you all do have things stored with regard to this, emails and stuff like that. So, well, damn, this was really good, and I'm glad we were able to connect. And as I've told all of the others, you're welcome. Oh, is there a dog coming at you? Sounds like there's.
no, I have 4 dogs, and my mailman's about to walk up to my house.
Oh, do you want to
Yes.
give your mailman an opportunity to say hi to the Chillinois podcast?
No, I don't think he likes weed very much.
Oh, damn, square. I'm just joking. I'm just
Well,
joking. He's
I'm
doing the
gonna
good work. What's up?
I'm gonna have to close out and say bye though.
Yeah, no, that's what I was about to say. Thank you for your time. And as I told all the others, you're always welcome on the show. So,
Thank you. I'll reach out to you.
all right, take care. Bye.
Bye.